Hey friends, and welcome to 2 Pixels Off. My name is Brad Hussey with my co-host Mike Janda. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm super good. Excited to record. I got a little burned out last week. Like I told you, I had done so many freaking podcasts, and then I was like, I'll ping you when I want to record again. I recovered, and I'm here, and I'm ready to go.
Welcome to 2 Pixels Off, a podcast for creative entrepreneurs.
Exactly. What the hell, Vedika, were you thinking about launching another podcast, right?
Hell, Vedika. I don't know what I was thinking, but that one's fun too. That one's been fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I've been following along and it's looking great. So good work on that too.
Thank you.
Speaking of podcasts, make sure you review, not just you, Mike, you should leave us a review on 2 Pixels Off, but everybody listening, leave us that review. We've been getting good feedback. It's been nice to see. It's really encouraging. It really, pumps up the spirits, when you're recording and doing these sessions, knowing that people enjoy it. So thank you for doing that. If you have, please do. If you have not, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And actually, speaking of hearing your thoughts and continuing the conversation, I actually want to offer a special invite to everybody listening to join my community called the Creative Crew Community. And we offer completely free industry-leading programming like group coaching with Mike and I. We do group coaching sessions each month for anyone who's available to attend, and we'll work through business problems and help you out. And it's a lot of fun. And I think really helpful to those of you who are trying to get over a roadblock in your business. We also have regular office hours. We do workshops, competitions, we do training. We have lots of assets and video recordings from some industry leaders and big names in the creative entrepreneurship and web design and agency industry. So a big backlog of a video library there. So tons of training, content, coaching, mentorship. And the reason I'm mentioning that is all of this industry leading programming is complimentary thanks to Wix Studio. So there's my little shout out to Wix Studio today. I'm able to do such great work over there because of Wix Studio. So come check it out. It's creativecrewcommunity.com. You'll see Mike and I there. And come say hi. That would be really great.
We're dropping links in all of the descriptions of these podcasts, so you can smash the link down there and check it out. All free. It's all free. We love the people that are joining those sessions, and it's been a lot of fun. So
totally. Yeah, it's been really cool. Now, today I want to talk about, and this is something that I find exciting for me, and I'd love to incorporate you in this conversation here. It's about, should you grow an agency or should you stay a freelancer? Is freelancing like just the baby step to being an agency? Does it always have to be that way? So which is best, agency or freelancer? What do you think?
That's the whole point of the podcast. So should I just take an hour?
Tell me the answer.
Should I take an hour right now? I think, okay, so I've been in every model of this. I did the basement freelancer. I did the boutique agency, just a 5-employee kind of thing. I grew that to a sizable boutique agency, 20-employee thing. And then when I sold, we had the 70, 80 person team. So I was part of the big agency model as well. So I kind of tasted every single one of these and enjoyed the pros and withstood the cons of each one. What I think we should do is go down the pros and cons. If I went back in time, I would have done it exactly how I did it, except I wouldn't have been as stressed. I would have enjoyed each phase that I was in to its fullest because I would know I was in the phase. And I think that that's one of the takeaways that I want people to have today is to recognize where you are, what business model you have, and then enjoy the benefits of that business model. So hopefully this makes you feel a little bit better about your choice of what kind of creative business you want to have.
I think that's, I think that's a good way of framing it, because really, when you're in it and you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
It's hard to know if you're doing it right or if there's something wrong, and you can't even enjoy it sometimes because you're so burdened by the stress. But when you're able to say, if you had a do-over, then, you'd be able to approach it a bit differently. And so maybe we can apply some of that, that wisdom that if you restarted, how would you do this exact moment differently?
Yeah. Okay. So there are three models that we're going to talk about. One is just being a solo freelancer, and we'll go through the pros and cons of that model. The next one is a small agency or a boutique agency, which in my definition of that, I kind of set it as you've got some employees, 5 to 20 or so. I think at the 20 plus mark, you start being considered like a full-on agency, not a boutique agency.
Yeah.
And then you've got the full-on agency, which sometimes has multiple locations, has bigger size team. That's what I consider that full agency. I guess, and we're not going to talk about this one, but you've got the big conglomerate agencies, the McCanns of the world that have offices all over the world. And we're not going to talk about that one either. That's a whole other animal. I mean, that's more of an enterprise level business with the hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue spread across multiple departments. And that's just not realistic for most people to dream of. I didn't want it. I didn't want that model. Okay. So solo freelancer, let's talk about this one. The pros and cons of being a solo freelancer. Maybe we should start with, let's alternate some thoughts on this, Brad.
Okay.
And let's start with the cons, just to jump in negative. Jump in negative right out of the get-go.
Tell you the worst stuff, the worst part.
The worst part of this. What's one of the cons that you experience? Because this is the model that you somewhat live today.
Yeah. Yeah. So for anyone listening right now, I could speak with authority on this topic because I was and am a freelancer. And I hesitate to use that word because a lot of the time people think freelancer, it's lowly, it's the building block, baby step, it's the ABCs. Look, I've been doing this as a freelancer for since 2009. So whatever that is, 15 years. And I've had people working under me. I manage them remotely, of course. I've never had it like a brick and mortar shop. I've never had a location. It's always just been at home or from wherever I happen to be at the time. And so I've really put that model to the test. And I'm going to tell you, I know you said, let's start with the cons.
Are you going to go with the pros?
I'm not going to tell you any specific pros yet. I'm just going to say it's good.
Okay.
I will tell you why later. But cons, there's plenty. And let me tell you a couple. If you are not very good at working in a silo in your head or in your own space and you have nobody around, if that isolation is negative or detrimental to you, then that's bad. It's like I'm alone working, I can hear my kids, I can hear my wife, but it's like there's nobody here to be like, hey, I got an idea. What do you think about this? Or can you help me out in this? It's just me. And so that can get a little burdensome. For me, I'm okay with it, but it's bad for some people. I'm going to tell you another one.
Okay.
I'm good at this now, but I guarantee if you're starting out in this or you don't have a good grasp on it, your time off, your vacations and your weekends and your mental freedom where you check out from your work, that can be really hard. You can be always thinking about it. It can be always weighing on you. You can always check your email and you're like, I just want to take a couple weeks off at the cabin, or I just want to go on a vacation for a few days. And if you have a project coming up, like if you don't have the systems, you don't have anything in place and you don't have boundaries, that's you could say bye-bye to that.
Yeah.
And that's going to get hard.
I lived this life for 2 years before I started hiring people. And I got so busy. I was doing the 60, 80 hour weeks, just consistently working every day and working at night and just never turned it off. And most of it was self-inflicted because I didn't push back on my clients very hard and I didn't say no. I was just operating from a place of fear. And I remember going on a trip. We went to San Diego, which you mentioned in the opening before we even hit record.
Scenes, yeah.
Yeah, San Diego. We went on a trip to San Diego. It was my wife's family reunion thing that their family, extended family, always did down there. And I brought my laptop, my Power Mac G3. You remember the one that was in Mission Impossible, that black one with the white logo on it? Is so sick. Black plastic. Anyway, freaking loved
pounds.
that. I loved, it was 40 pounds. And I brought that and a zip drive because my clients back then, when nobody had high-speed internet, and they would send me zip drives and jazz drives and stuff that I would use for assets. And so I brought that, and I would go to the beach in the morning for the 1 or 2 hours until I couldn't take it anymore. And then the stress was just eating me up. And I would just go back to the hotel room. I'd dial up through AOL and from the hotel room and work on my stuff and upload my files for clients and things. And I never got to take that full vacation feeling. And I didn't feel a real full vacation until I had like 12 employees and finally had enough middle management that I got to go on a vacation and not have to be on phone calls the whole time. But I never had a vacation that I didn't have a phone call, even running as a boutique agency. So anyway, it's a real challenge as the solo freelancer model of this. It never turns off, and you don't have anyone there to help you shoulder the burden of it. Nobody there to answer the phone when you're not there. Nobody's checking the company email when you're not there. So that can be a big challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
What are some of the other cons that in this model?
Not having. Okay, here's one. And these are cons without me giving you, there's solutions to these. Oh, believe me. And I really hope we get into them. Don't hear this and go, especially if we use this as a clip. I'm never going to do that, especially if we use this as this as a clip and you don't get the context, then we might turn a couple people off. But one of the cons, without giving, the pathway through it, is there's an income ceiling generally on what you can earn, because a lot of the time freelancers are just charging hourly and they don't understand how to charge effectively. So there's an income ceiling, but also there's an output ceiling, meaning like you only have so much time. And if you set your hours and you say, I work Monday to Friday, or you say like, I work Monday to Thursday, I'm going to take Fridays off all the time. Great. That's totally fine and doable. But now you have Monday to Thursday to create an output, and there's only so much time. You've got admin, you've got non-billable work, you've got communications with clients, you've got business planning, and then you've got, of the time you have left, doing client work and delivering on your promises to your clients. And so because of that, there's only so much you can earn. And so there's a bit of a limitation there on what you can earn, but also there's a limitation on your services that you can offer. Like I'm good at these 3 things really well, and I'm okay at these 4 things, and I'm really bad at these 5 other things. Yeah. So you have to either necessarily hire people, subcontract it out to augment that, or say, I don't do those things. Yeah. And I only specialize here.
Yeah.
So that's,
I felt both of those. Give you a story on that. My first year as a solo freelancer, I think I billed like 220 grand. My second year, I think I billed 240 grand. And then the third year, I started hiring people and billed $500,000. So all of a sudden, it was as soon as I expanded my company's ability to output more work, the revenue took off. But for me, I was maxed out already. I could have stayed solo my third year and probably billed 220 or 240 again, because it was maxing it out. Now, some people, Brad, would say, yeah, but that's why you value-based price, which I want to talk about in one of these episodes. There's still a limitation, even if you're doing value-based pricing, and that limitation is based on what other people in the market are charging. So if other freelancers are charging $10,000 to build a website and you value-based price it at $50,000, a lot of the clients that are choosing freelancers are going to choose the $10,000 freelancer instead, because you're not competing at the market pricing of that type of work. So anyway, I think value-based pricing is the only little nuance that would be the people refuting the fact that there's a ceiling on the income. But truth be told, between you and me and the few thousand people listening, there's a freaking ceiling. There's a limitation on your time, and that limits the ability for you to output, and that limits the ability for you to increase your revenue. Man, you make a lot more money when you start hiring people, but that comes with cons too, which we'll talk about in a minute.
And then I'm going to just interject here with, on the topic of income ceilings. Granted, this income ceiling could be very high, and there's lots of ways to increase that. But also, something here more philosophically speaking is a little short story here. Very, very, very short. I'll condense it, and I'll probably... Go ahead.
This is about boots, right? This is about boots. Your wife, Brad, so the next thing he's going to say is, so my wife was shopping for boots. And what? And then he's going to give his anecdote.
I'm going to tell you this time, Mike, you are wrong.
It's not? Okay.
You're wrong. But good guess. Good guess.
Was a good guess.
You got to check in on the season transitions when we're moving into a new season.
Yes. Okay.
And
that's the time.
That's the time where you're like, look, fall's coming, summer's here, winter's coming. And
I got it.
Yeah, there's something about my buying boots obsession. Yeah. If we ever met up, Mike, I'd probably be like, Mike, we should go boot shopping for you.
Yeah, that's what it would be.
Get you some good boots.
Okay, let's go.
So my story, nothing about boots, but we snuck it in there. Two brothers, one is very wealthy and one, makes a modest income, does okay, but one's quite wealthy. Wealthy one is, very stressed and unhappy. Always chasing. And the one who seems to, compared to this other brother, is not even remotely as successful, let's say. But he seems peaceful. He seems kind of joyful. Seems like, so somebody asks him, the brother who's not doing as well financially, what's going on here? What do you have that he doesn't? And his answer is enough. And that's something that I think we need to all decide what is enough, because you can make $1 million and $2 million is what you think is the right answer. But at one point when you were making 50,000, making 100,000 sounded perfect. And then when you hit that, you go, you know what? 200,000 is it. It's 500,000. It's $1 million. It's 5 million. It's 10 million. And it just keeps going. And you could see it. You might think, well, Brad, no, that's poppycock. Like, show me an example. Look at pretty much all of the wealthiest people in the world. Most of them don't seem like they live a life that we would envy and want to model.
Yeah.
Whereas you might look at someone who's maybe a little more humble, doing okay.
Yeah.
And you go, I want what that person has. Now, you get to set what that is. Like you might live in an expensive area or have a lifestyle that's more expensive than somebody else's, but you determine what you value, so you might like going on lots of vacations, or you might like staying at home and investing your time and even money into making your home a wonderful space, whatever it is, you get to determine what is enough. And if you know what that enough number looks like, then if your ceiling as a freelancer, let's say your enough number is $200,000. Let's say that. And that's a generous number. And your business makes 500 and you're capped at that, or you're capped at even 300. You're like, look, like I'm getting everything I need. I make enough and more. And that extra goes into savings, investments, and a safety net. So if there's a time where things go downhill, I'm okay. And that's a good feeling.
Yeah. I love that. The word enough. Interestingly, I feel like I should have heard that story before, but I don't think that I have. But it's so good. Some of the happiest people I've had the good fortune to travel around to a lot of different countries, and South America I've been in places that are pretty poor, and the people seem pretty happy. They seem pretty happy. So everybody has stresses.
Yeah.
But if you can cover your cost of living, whatever level that is, then happiness is yours for the taking.
Yeah.
I think when we don't have enough to support our basic needs, then finances play a part in your happiness level. But as long as that's covered, your basic needs, then it is a decision on whether this is enough or not. Yeah. And I think a lot of solo freelancers would benefit from saying to themselves, okay, what is my number? Like you're saying, what's my number that I'm happy with? And if it's $100,000, that's a big number. A lot of people want to hit six-figure freelancer. Yep. Six-figure freelancer. That's their goal. And if that's enough, then let it be enough. Don't feel like you have to keep chasing the next era of your business, the next boutique agency. You don't have to hire. You don't have to hire people. You can have plenty and enough as a solo freelancer.
Yep.
I'm going to throw one more con on the list here, and that is, as a freelancer, oftentimes you get clients who try to push you around a little bit. They try to get a deal. They try and manage your production flow. They try and tell you that they don't need mood boards or wireframes, so they don't want to spend money on that. So they try and manage your process for you. You battle that just by the nature of you being a freelancer. The perception, true or not true, the perception from a lot of clients is that there's wiggle room in how you do things and what you charge for them. Yeah. Have you had clients try and haggle you, Brad?
Yeah. And that comes, that's heavy. That comes on thick at the beginning, and it'll stay there if you let the clients, if you teach the clients how you want them to treat you.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, when you're really beginner and you're kind of a rookie and you're not, you don't understand and you don't have the confidence or the experience, like your client can smell it. And so they kind of, they'll push you around because they just kind of can. Maybe not out of the, they're trying to be mean or bad, but maybe because they just sense like someone needs to lead here and it's not going to be you, but you have what I need. And so maybe can we get a discount here, or is there a way that we can do this a little faster? Or I actually have a guy in-house. He's a pretty good designer. And I know we're hiring you for design stuff, but maybe he can help you out. And you're like, this is not how I wanted to do this. As you progress, you necessarily ought to get rid of that. And it's mainly what you're putting out. So I've had clients this far into my career as a quote unquote freelancer. Consultant would be more accurate of a term at this stage. But I've had clients try that and they find out really quick in a respectful, professional way that that's not how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of communicating it. Oh, look, I understand that you're trying to, get X, Y, and Z. But I don't work like that. I've been doing this for 15 years and I know what you need and I know what you're looking for here. So, you respectfully ask them to, sit down, enjoy the ride. I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
No, I know I don't work with. Yeah, go ahead.
Some of that for you comes from not caring whether they say yes or no. Like you have enough clients and you have enough income streams that if a client says no, then you're fine with it. Okay. Thanks. Go find somebody else who you can bully. And that's a good place to get. That's a good place to get in for sure.
That's the dream. Feeling. Oh, I just got an email, and this was for. I guess I won't name the specific situation. I'll name the situation, but not specifics about who it was or what it was about or anything. But it was a potential customer client, and they said, "How much for this?" And could you do this for us? I look into the company and I go, yeah, I could. Actually, I could do that. It's not something I'm so excited about, but I think I could do a decent job with that. It's not a big deal for me. And, it's a nice little perk in the revenue. It's always good to look for those. So I'm like, sure, here's what I charge for that, and here's when we can have it done. And then the response was, oh, Brad, we were actually thinking that maybe instead we would give you lifetime access to our software.
No. Oh,
And,
okay, but keep going.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And lifetime access to our software. It's a value of $850.
Whoa.
And wow.
Wait, 850 real dollars? This is crazy.
Yeah. Is this real? Is this crypto? Is this just like emotional feelings money? What is it?
Yeah.
Is this what you think it is? And so it was like, we were thinking this, what do you think about that? We give you lifetime access. And I turned around and I was like, I will quickly respond to this email in less than 1 minute, because after that, it's not worth it for me even to respond. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, thanks for the offer. No, thanks. Here's my media kit and my pricing. It's minimum $5,000. And I'd be happy to do it. And we can get started as early as whatever the timeline was. Let me know how you'd like to proceed. And they were like, no, we're not interested in that. And so I just deleted the email. Yeah. In the past, I would have been like, oh, lifetime access to that tool. I probably could use it. Yeah, sure. And then I would have went in over my head and been bullied around for a month for free for a tool that might not even stick around. So it's like, you learn that as you don't need the work, you get that luxury of, I don't need this.
It's a nice place to be.
And it's a nice place to be.
Yeah, it's a nice place to be. You know what? That story and example lead us into, let's call it the first pro of being a solo freelancer. And that is that your overhead is lower than if you had employees. And because your overhead is lower, you can say no to more things. You can pick and choose what you want to do and what kind of deal you take. And the luxury that you had of this was that because of that, because you have your income streams completing or fulfilling the enough in your life. And so you can say no. If you had 10 employees and payroll looming next week, you might be saying, okay, lifetime access. Well, I don't like that part, but I do want their $3,000 so that I can make my payroll next week. You get in a different situation. So this is one of the pros of being a solo freelancer. Your cost to do business is low, and that gives you the ability to push back, and that creates less stress in your business because you're not chasing revenue to make payroll.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Being nimble and lightweight is one of the best parts of this model, for sure.
I think it is too. I think it is. I love that about it. I didn't enjoy it when I was doing it because I was so fear-based. But in hindsight, I loved the nimbleness. I'm nimble now. I have one employee doing in my business now, and I love being nimble. I love that when somebody buys a course or something, I'm like, that's great. And if I wake up in the morning and nobody bought a course, I'm like, well, that's great too. I love my life. I don't have that financial burden of payroll coming. And I love that nimbleness and that it creates less stress. So that's a big pro of the solo freelancer model.
Yeah, it is. And what's nice is there's a relative cap on your overhead costs, and it's almost purely based on your lifestyle. So that's where it can get expensive if your income grows, and let's say your family grows, and a lot of the time we call it lifestyle inflation, where, my life 10 years ago cost very different than my life today. Part of it is, I have a cabin, and that's more expensive to have a second mortgage, than just one mortgage. Well, actually, even 10 years ago, I was renting, and rent was like $850 a month or something like that, versus different adult responsibilities. 35-year-old Brad has very different financial obligations to his family and his home and his business than like 21-year-old Brad. But that's fine. I don't want to live like 21-year-old Brad. And I want to live like I do now. But it's still, there's a relative cap on your on your overhead costs. And so long as you keep your lifestyle inflation moderated and tempered as best as you can.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just gravy. So my accountant always tells me, and it's nice, I like going to my accountant. Well, actually, I don't like going to my accountant because it's always like, here, Brad, here's all the taxes you owe. And I don't like that part. But the part that I do like is the part where the accountant goes, I have many, many clients who are business owners. And if they saw how lightweight and nimble your operation is with those margins, they'd faint. And granted, in my area, there's a lot of agriculture and cattle and farming operations. So like they have massive overhead.
Yeah,
it's just
big
a different
overhead.
thing. It's huge. So, they're paying employees and insurances and crazy taxes and all this stuff that I don't even understand. Whereas I could make good money so long as I work for it and work hard. But my cost for the business is like low. Like my Visa bill for the business, like, and I have lots of subscriptions. It's like as tight as it could be. I'm always thinking like, what can I cancel to save $8 a month? You're like, nothing really. It's so all the biggest expense is me and my family. That's it.
Yeah. It's a good thing. I missed that when I had bigger overhead. I missed that. So I love that as a pro for being a solo freelancer. Kind of tied to that is that all of the profit that is in your business is your profit to take. You don't have other employees where you're sitting there thinking, I got to pay some bonuses out. They deserve it. I got to increase some salaries and give people raises. I've got to set up some profit sharing or commission for my salespeople, or profit sharing for somebody who's like my right-hand person. You don't have any of that. If the money comes in to your business account at some point, it's your money and you get to take it. That's a nice thing. I had a lot of people on profit share at my agency as part of their compensation. And I allocated a certain percentage of my entire profit to split between all the employees. So even people after 90 days, you qualified for the profit share program. And so all the money coming in wasn't all my money to take. And that's a big benefit of being a solo freelancer. You're never having to calculate out who else gets to dip their hand in the pile of money. It's all yours. And I think you got to appreciate and enjoy that piece.
Yes. And so what you have to do here, so there's two differences here from where I see it is like with the solo operation as like a freelancer versus say the agency in that example you just gave. If you're a successful, running smoothly solo operator, solo freelancer, and you're making good money, high profit margins, low overhead costs, and you're humming along nicely, the benefit really here, so I'm going to add another con to our list here.
Oh,
but
no,
I'm going to
we were done with cons, but you can give another.
I'll give you one more.
You're so negative.
But I'm so negative today. Me and my angry background.
Oh, you're so mad.
Angry today.
He's so mad. He's drinking bubbly.
This is an angry smile.
Oh, it's so mad. It's the mustache, man. It is Tom Selleck. You got a Tom Selleck mustache going on.
Yeah. And that somebody sent a picture to my wife. This was a while ago. And was like, I didn't know you married Tom Selleck, and sent a picture of me side by side with Tom Selleck in his prime. And I was like, I will take that compliment all day long.
Tom Selleck.
So
he made mustaches cool again. That's what he did. Yep.
He did. It was a very handsome chevron.
He did good. Yeah.
So I lost my train of thought, actually. I have no idea what I was about to say.
You were feeling giddy about Tom Selleck and comparing yourself to him. Okay, there we go.
You did it. You compared me, and I just accepted it.
Okay, you accepted it.
Pro and con. The con is you're not building an asset you can sell as a solo freelancer, even if you incorporate. So here in Canada, you can incorporate as a corporation. And I know in the United States, you guys have corporations. You have like S Corp and
LLC,
LLCs and things, partnerships and things. We have similar idea. The idea is you incorporate. It's a separate entity, but selling that entity, if you're just a freelancer and it's based on a kind of a personal brand and one person, That can be tricky. I'm sure there's ways around it, but it's mainly not something that you could just easily exit.
Yeah.
So that's the downside.
Yeah,
but the upside, but the upside is it's a lifestyle business that, when done well, makes plenty of extra surplus, and that surplus can be invested in ways that do protect you, like say maybe selling your agency for, a few $1,000,000. If you do this over the lifetime of your career and you do well and you're investing in the stock market, you're investing in real estate, you're saving money, you're doing the right things based on your geographic location, and maybe certain governments in your area have benefits. I know you guys have like 401ks and whatnot. We have RRSPs and TFSAs, different, tax sheltered kind of saving and retirement plans. If you're doing all the right things, whether you're in Canada, US, United Kingdom, or wherever else everyone's listening, and you take advantage of that with smart financial planning, you don't really need to sell it, because you're like, look, I've been saving this and investing this, and this is growing over time. And that's the fruits of my labor when you start to age. So the pro would be, it's not really a sellable asset mostly, but that's the con, actually. I think I said it wrong. The con is that it's mostly not a sellable asset, but the pro is that that overhead profit, that delta between the overhead costs and the profit like that you bring in, that's where, if you do that and sustain that for a long period of time, like you're good.
You're good. Yeah, you're good. Full disclosure, when I sold my agency, I didn't consider selling my agency until I had made plenty of money and had sizable investments in a variety of different things. Then I sold my agency, and I did it not because of a financial decision. I did it because of a time in my life when I was ready for the new adventure. I had already made enough money. So it wasn't, I didn't sell it. I didn't build my agency to sell it and have this acquisition. And now all of a sudden I got money. It was, I made the money, and then that freed me up to be able to sell it whenever I wanted. And truth be told, when I sold, the amount of money that I was able to take out of my business accounts was more than what my sale price was. So I look at that and I'm like, okay, I had this money sitting in my business accounts that I needed to have there to cover the operational costs of my business. But now I didn't have employees anymore. They were employed by the agency I sold to. And so all that money that I had been saving into my business accounts for years and years and years was now mine to take. So anyway, that's the financial decision, or it wasn't a financial decision to sell. It was an exit to relieve myself of the burden of an agency so that I could go and pursue other things that I was interested in, which is what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Very cool.
All right. I'm going to give you two more, and then we're going to have to rapid fire boutique agency and full agency, but two more pros on being a solo freelancer. You have full control over the execution of the projects, meaning you're never battling Steve, your new art director, on how this project should be done or what the next step is, or if this design is right. It's all you. You're answering to your client and your client's customer. Those are the people in your decision making. You're never having to battle somebody else for control of the project flow. And I felt that battle when I started having employees, because people have their own way of wanting to do things. And then you have a business way of wanting to do things, and you as the business owner need to set that standard. So you don't have that battle. And then this you're doing so great too, Brad, but you can build a strong personal brand if you're a solo freelancer. You spend so much time in your life right now building your personal brand, and you monetize your personal brand as well. You're building your personal brand and monetizing your personal brand while you're freelancing for clients. And that personal brand growth that you're doing now is going to yield dividends to you for years and years and years to come. That's what you'll retire on. It's that piece.
Yeah.
So I think those are two good pros on the solo freelancer. The summary, it's a great model. It's a great model. You can go to the beach, and you might have to work from your hotel room, but go to Bali and spend 6 months there and have that kind of lifestyle. It is a lifestyle business choice, like you said, Brad, and it can be a great choice. For
it
people.
is, and it doesn't have to always be. When I was, and I'll finish up here, and we'll move on to our next ones. The lifestyle is yours to choose, and for some, it's the beach in Bali. For me, with 3 kids, family life, it's busy. We got lots of extracurriculars. I'm like looking at my calendar half the time to be like, wait, we got dance, we got hockey, we got baseball. I'm coaching this. We're doing this. Oh, I forgot to take the dogs for a walk. Blah 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 blah. But it's like that's my thing. I like it, and I have time for it. And I take half days on Fridays. I've been doing that for years now. I don't work at the end. And my wife wants a day to do her photography work, or if she's got something, or if the kid needs to go to the doctor. It's like I could do any of it and all of it at all points at any time. And it's just like pure flexibility, and it's worth its weight in gold. And I don't ever overlook that.
Yeah, good. All right. So shout out to all of you that are solo freelancers. It's a great model. Enjoy the benefits of it, like Brad is doing. Just appreciate it. I think that's the takeaway we want you to have. Sit back and say, you know what? I really do love those things about being a solo freelancer. Yeah. Now let's move on to boutique agency. Let's start with some cons. This is, you decided to move past the solo freelancer. You have 5, 10, 15 employees. What are the negatives that you would perceive in this model, Brad? What's one of them?
Yeah. So now with boutique agency, I can speak from some experience because in the peak of my freelancing, where I started to realize I'm not just a freelancer, where I would run a creative studio, and that creative studio is still my company, but I don't nearly take on as many big web design specific projects. I keep it nimble and light. But in the peak, I did have 3 to 5 people that I was consistently managing for projects, from project managers to designers, developers, extra freelancers. There's some moving parts, and it was remote. So it was the micro agency, boutique agency sort of vibe. And I realized pretty quickly that I was no longer the web designer. I was a people manager. And I started to realize oh man, I don't know how to manage people. That's a new skill I got to learn. And I got to start reading about that or learning about that and understanding, this person's upset over here, or this person has a vacation right in the middle of when they said they were going to do the project, or this person's slacking and I have to fire them, or holy smokes, that's the different thing. I love this flexibility that they lifted me up into, but now I've got to be boss Brad, and that can be that could be tricky. So that was a con that I realized that took me by surprise.
It took me by surprise too, and I'll give you my way of that I say this. It was that year that I hired people, and I had 5 employees, and we were doing a lot more money, and I had delegated out the design and project management and that flow. I was still in the weeds of it a little bit, but not nearly like I was before. What I was all the way in the weeds of was that anytime a client was frustrated, it bubbled up to me. So now I had to deal with the frustrated clients. Anytime we had a new sales opportunity or a new lead come in, I was the one who had to sell it and close it and do that work. And anytime I had an employee who was frustrated or not showing up, or I needed to fire or whatever, I was the one doing that. And what I said at the time, Brad, and I hold to this, is that I succeeded my way into a job that I hated. I was like, my freelance job I was so good at it that I started hiring people, and now I hate my life because I don't create the stuff anymore. All I do is shovel poo. That's how it felt to me. I was like, I go to work in the day and I'm just shoveling poo. It was the worst. It was like all the bad stuff I had to do. Now, I got over that when I started to realize that what I was creating was now an agency brand, a business and operations and systems and processes and marketing materials and relationship sales strategies. I was starting to create all of these kinds of things, and I got super passionate and got my creative itch scratched by creating the business. But there was about a year when I was just questioning why I was even doing this thing, because I hadn't caught the vision that I was now creating something that wasn't a website or a logo. It was a business itself. And after I got over that, I started to love this boutique agency model after I figured out that little paradigm tweak that made me fall in love with it. But until then, it was shovel and poo, man. It was shovel and poo. That's what it was.
Well, and this to me makes me think of, speaking of like tie-in parenting in a sense, going from 0 kids to 1 was like the hardest thing. We have 3.
You're literally shoveling poo. You're literally shoveling poo.
Yeah,
that's what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And you didn't have prior experience. You weren't emotionally like experienced with it. You weren't ready. You're like, you're not interrupted in your sleep, and there's lots of different things. Huge lifestyle change. 0 to 1 is a massive wake up call, or change. 1 to 2. It's like, okay, like I kind of know how this works, and you can anticipate things. Like 2 to 3, you're just like, okay, just things are louder, and there's like more people who need things, but like I got this. Like I'm experienced. Like I know how it goes. You're more chill. You're more relaxed. Like the parent with 3 kids, or at least Brad with 3 kids versus Brad with 1 kid, is like, like I got a mustache and I'm chill. Whereas before I was like, it's like, so this is like, the boutique agency is like going from 1, so just yourself, to 2, 3, or 4. It's like that huge change where you're like, wait a minute, I thought we were just like all going to be on the beach in Bali with like lifestyle freedom. You're like, no, you got to change this up, man. Like, it's this different game. You're going to love it, but it's a different game. And then once you can realize what's going on, how to manage this, and we can move into the pros here, then you go, oh, this is a sweet spot. This is really good.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I think so too. I think that's good. You could tie everything back to these 3 things. All of the stuff you talk about in business, you could tie it into sports analogies, raising kids analogies, and war analogies. Those are the 3 things that we could all go take business. Yeah, it's battle. You could take all business and give those same kinds of analogies for any of those things. All right, let's go through on the cons. War, sports, family. All overlapping. War, sports, and family. All right. I don't mean to make light of war, because I know there are a few wars going on in our world right now today and stuff. So I'm not talking
we can change the word to battle, because there's always battles, whether it's a literal battle or a battle in the ring or whatever it is, we can turn it to battle, and maybe that would be a little more palatable.
More sensitive to the current landscape of the world.
You can't read my chicken scratches, but
no, I can't.
Put 3 circles: battle, sports, and family. Yeah. And right in the middle is like business. It's kind of the same.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's good. It's a Venn diagram. So nice. Yeah. All right. So the cons of a boutique agency: your overhead cost now requires you to have consistent income. You're cranking out income to cover your payroll, cover your overhead. That's a burden you don't feel as a solo freelancer. Another con is that your team size is not so big that you're out of the weeds. Now you're a manager of the business, and oftentimes a middle manager as well, managing people on their day-to-day tasks. So you haven't hit this more structured agency model where you have a tier of middle management and a lot of the day-to-day operations don't touch you in that world. So you're not big enough, but you're not small anymore either. Yeah. So you're in this kind of limbo phase where you still feel a lot of the burden on your shoulders. The next con is that your business starts offering services that you can't personally fulfill. Oh man, this was scary when I started saying yes to a lot of back-end programming, heavy app development kind of stuff. And I was saying yes to my clients and then just hoping that my team member could execute on it. And I couldn't fix it on a Saturday night if I had to. And man, that burden is scary. That is a scary place to be. Brad, what are some of the pros of a boutique agency in kind of a rapid fire way?
Okay, let me give you a couple here. Big money, like profit that you just you put the gas on the fire. You know, there's something happened here where you went from I have a ceiling to that blew the top off. And so now you can take on, instead of you're like, hey, I made a $10,000 month doing my work, but you know, that's all I could do. If I can't do a $20,000 month because I don't have the capacity. Where now you have 2 or 3 or 4 people helping you out, or 5 people, and now you could do $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 months. And you're like, whoa, hold on a second here. Something happened.
I didn't know I could do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like a really cool realization where you're like, wow, my billing for this month is huge.
Yeah.
And my costs are higher, but the profit margins are still there. I like it. So that's a big one.
I had that one that I mentioned earlier. I went from 220 to 240 to 500 when I started hiring people. So it was that big jump because now I was monetizing 5 people's output instead of just mine.
You blow the top right off. Another one that I really love. Now, to put a twist on the managing people is hard. Once you start to kind of realize how to do it a little bit and you get better at it, you actually realize how joyful it is. Because here's what I love about it. You feel really good about helping somebody by being an income source for them. Like when the people who are working with me today, at this current moment, when they send me their invoice, I pay it happily and as quickly as possible as I possibly can. So long as I'm at the computer or I have my phone and I can pay it. And I feel great that I'm like, that's awesome. That feels good for me because they got that and they saw that deposit and they're like, that feels nice. That's such a joyful feeling. I love that so much. Yeah. So that's a really nice emotional benefit that you get to help be part of providing for somebody or enabling them to provide for their own families. That's wonderful.
That is.
And they also, in exchange for that, like the burden they lift from you is massive. So before, when you're like, oh, this issue came by, or this happened, or this bug happened, or this situation is here, I have to figure it out as a solo operator with no one here. I'm just literally out to sea here, figuring it out by myself. And I'm so upset and stressed. I can now go, hey, so-and-so, this came by. Could you take care of it in the best way that you possibly can? I'm off for the weekend. And you get to it when you can. It's it's not urgent or whatever the situation is, but like, I need you to handle this one. Could you do that for me? And they're like, yep, it's part of my job description. I got it.
Yeah.
And that, holy smokes. And you can go to the weekend and you can go coach baseball or you can go for a bike ride or whatever your thing is and be like, it's handled.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good one. I think another benefit is that clients start perceiving you as a bigger organization, and that makes it so that you don't get pushed around as much. You start having other people on the call. Then when you send your price to a client or present your price, the client's not pushing back on you as hard saying, can't you just cut me a deal? You still get it. I got it even as a full-on agency. You have people wanting that. But they're not trying to ramrod you into $100 logos anymore. They're trying to get you down from $30,000 for this thing to $24,000 for this thing. And so that's a nice place to be in. You get that power in your negotiation process. Yeah. And then the last thing on this one, I think, is that you get time away from your business. It becomes possible. And at the start, it's not like it can be just Friday afternoon. It can be Friday afternoon that you're not there, or on a Tuesday you decide to not be available for your business dealings and you let your team handle it. In the good phase of this, after I had employees, we started about 5-6 years in, we started taking 3-week trips to Kauai every summer. And we were doing these trips. We'd rent a VRBO or a Airbnb and rent a condo and spend 3 weeks. And it wasn't that I didn't work at all, but my work at that point of my agency, when I had 12, 15 employees, my work was just phone calls. I had to talk to this client for this little bit. I had to check in with my team. I had to reply to emails and stuff, but I didn't have to push pixels around anymore because I had a team doing that kind of work. And now I really could do my work. As long as I had a phone, I could do my work from anywhere. And so that was a nice thing that didn't exist when I was a solo freelancer, and I still had to push pixels around.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
All right, let's go through agency. When you start getting bigger, that bigger animal, that full-on agency, what are some of the pros and cons of this model?
Okay. I could speak to this not from experience owning an agency like this, but I can from working at one and interning at one. And though maybe working at one, it was between boutique. If we're saying 20, 15-ish people is like where you start going from bigger boutique to small agency. That's where I worked, but I also interned at a massive agency. Do you know Vision Critical?
I don't know.
Okay, it might be a Canadian specific agency, but basically they do market research for like retail chains, grocery stores. They visualize like your basically they help put together and design your and research for your like grocery stores and retail chains and the big names, the big brands, the big grocery chains to say like, here's how you outline your store. We did a lot of research and user surveys on what they look for, patterns, user behavior. So it was like a user experience, but in the real world and online sort of agency. It was huge. It was like a location in Vancouver, a location in Toronto. And so huge agency. And so I interned there way back when I was going to school. And it was as like a user experience, like a UX design intern. And then my work at the larger boutique agency. And I was a subcontractor for a large agency as well, where I would go in and meet with them, and it was a big agency. Yeah. So what it felt like was that there was almost like a void of personality. Like you could tell you weren't working with a person or a personal brand, or it didn't have a personality to it. It felt like an institution. It felt like an operation. It felt like a large, big moving machine. And so that felt like that was void of that. And so where you find that personality is in the people and in the pockets and the teams and whatnot. But it felt like, whoa, you're just like one piece in this whole machine. And so that, from my perspective, helping or working or interning at these places, there's a big distance between, let's say, the people and the clients, because it's like a whole operation. We had account managers, and you had a whole account management department at this agency when I sold, and we were the big agency, and I was one of the partners and the chief creative officer. And we had this whole group that was just the account managers, and they weren't on my team. I was over the creative team, and the account managers were under one of the other partners in the agency. And you do lose some of the personal touch between you and the client. We had a lot of clients I didn't even know who they were. Like we'd be doing projects that I didn't even know about. We had employees who I barely even knew. I mean, we're getting into that kind of thing. You lose as an owner of one of those kinds of size agencies, you lose that personalized touch with everything going on in your business. And it was weird for me at the start of that to get used to it, because I was used to feeling the weight of all the clients and feeling the weight of all the employees as the business owner that I was providing for those people. I think that was the hardest thing for me, of that loss of touch of the clients and projects. And consequently, the agency brand does become institutionalized or sterilized, because there are these cogs in between the client and the people actually executing on the work. You lose some of that connection. Yeah.
Now, some pros of this model is that the profits can start getting crazy, millions of dollars of profit. We had a lot of profit at this combined agency. So that you can have that extreme profitability. Freedom becomes really fully possible. Like when I had vacations, when I was one of the partners at the agency, I didn't have the phone calls and stuff. They were handled, and the partners would cover for each other. When one partner's gone, the crap really has to be hitting the fan for it to be a phone call from the beach in that scenario. So you get that extended measure of freedom. Some of these other models, Brad, give you flexibility. That's how I call it. Flexibility in when are you going to spend your hours working. But freedom, that really comes with this agency model where it's no longer just flexibility in where you work and when you work. It's the full freedom to not work when you're taking time off. I think that was a great thing. The breadth of services that you can start offering when you have that bigger team is great. You can start offering a more full suite of services. And then the clients follow your lead. They do not try to push you around nearly as much as when you're in these smaller size creative businesses. Yeah. They don't push you around like they did. And I loved that, man. Now every once in a while you get that outlier that does try and push you around, but nothing like as a solo freelancer or boutique agency. So those are the cons and pros of that model. One of the takeaways, and I said this in the intro, is any of these can be great. Pick the one that you want and enjoy the benefits of it while you're in it. That's the goal. Enjoy it. And if you only ever want to be a solo freelancer, then be that. Yep. Be that. Or if you don't want to be a freelancer at all, then go get a job. That's okay too. Like, be intentional about what kind of business or what kind of career you want to have. Be intentional about it. That's the big thing that I want to push people on today.
Yeah, absolutely. My takeaway would dovetail with that is that knowing enough, what is enough for you, and that could be your income, but that could also be your business model. Freelancing and or consulting. A mature freelancer in my mind ends up being a consultant. You start to realize, your specialty and your expertise, and you're less of a pixel pusher or a technician, doing the dragging and the dropping and the writing or whatever your thing is. And you become more of the, they're paying you for your mind. And that's where the unlocking of income comes, where it's like, can I, if you're offering coaching or consulting, or you're being, a fractional consultant for an operation, and they hire you for a large fee, where you just have to give them advice. And that's where that can really unlock a lot for you. And that can be enough, more than enough. And you don't have to say, well, now that I beat the freelancing game, now the next level is boutique agency and then agency. If that's your trajectory and that's the plan, wonderful. Yeah. If your goal is to be a really nimble, flexible, high-paid consultant, freelancing is your game, baby. Yeah. But if you want to build an asset that you can sell, like Mike, and you want to help manage people and you want to create massive amounts of profit with a big machine, well, maybe the agency model is for you as well. Know what is enough, know your goal, and be content with where you are in that moment as well.
So well said. Well said.
Thank you. I guess I was the intro of this, so I should probably do my due diligence.
You should just take us out now. Just take us out. Take us out.
Take us out. Here we go. Bringing us down. We're now approaching final descent at the end of the episode. I don't know why I became a pilot. It's the mustache.
Yeah.
The Captain Brad here. We're on our final descent here at the end of the episode. I want to thank you for listening. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. It always helps us out. Special shout out to, the Creative Crew community. That's my community for folks like us listening to the show. Come join us. Get some coaching from Mike and I. It is absolutely free, complimentary, or courtesy rather, of our friends at Wix Studio. The links to that community is in the show notes in the description, wherever you're listening to this. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Thanks, Mike, and we will catch you in the next episode.
See you later.